it's the right day to have a conference which is about empowering women and making our voice heard, because almost exactly a century ago, bar 2 days, the first woman to take her seat in the House of Commons was elected, Nancy Esther. And I think it is really depressing that still 100 years later, we're having to campaign on the same issues, on the representation of women, on equal pay, and on equal rights for girls and boys. And so we will today be talking about some of those things and other things. We've called the conference Courage Calls, using the words of Millicent Fawcett, who founded the London Suffrage Society, which was the mother of the Fawcett Society. And it's because if you want to change things, you need to be brave. We've had a rather horrible example of courage yesterday for people who were on London Bridge. But actually, the kind of courage that we need to change the world for the better for women is a quieter sort of courage, but it's no less scary sometimes. So I hope that one of the things we achieve today is give you all ideas about how to be brave to get the change that women need. And with that, I'd like to introduce Sam Smethers, who is our wonderful Chief Executive Officer.
Thank you very much, Fiona. Equally wonderful chair, I have to say. Welcome, everyone, to our AGM and conference here at Fawcett. I'm going to be very brief because we've got a really packed programme and a very exciting programme for you, and you're going to hear from me later on anyway. As you know, we campaign on equal representation, and we have done forever as Fawcett. So women in politics and public life is absolutely part of our DNA. It's a central issue for us. And so it was with some alarm, I have to say, that I looked at the names and the number of women who declared they were going to stand down from Parliament at this election. It was about proportionate to the number of women in Parliament, so about 32%, so not that surprising in a way. But then when you look a bit harder and beyond those headline numbers, you realise they were disproportionately Conservative women. And on average, those Conservative women had 9 years service in Parliament, and the men standing down, the Tory men, had 20 years standing in Parliament. And the women often were giving reasons such as the abuse and threats they'd received and the toxic environment that they were in, and they just didn't want to do it anymore. You know, they'd had enough, in the words of Caroline Spellman. So for that reason, we wanted to feature that issue here at Fawcett today. And so I'm absolutely delighted to say we've got Amber Rudd joining our panel this morning, or joining us for an interview with Aisha Hazarika, because we have to hear from those women and hear what their reasons are, and it's really important to hear directly from her. And I'm really grateful to her for joining us today. And I think the important thing to acknowledge is that we've got to do something about that. We can't have a revolving door for women in politics. We can't just say, oh, well, don't worry, we've got more women coming down the track. It's not good enough if what they're walking into is a bit of a swamp, actually. We've got to change the culture. We've got to make the parliamentary environment more hospitable, and we've got to do something about online abuse. So there's so many things we need to change. I'm absolutely thrilled to say we're going to hear from a fantastic panel later on as well, including our wonderful Aisha Hazarika, who I'm now going to introduce. Now, Aisha is, as many of you will know, a former special advisor to Ed Miliband and Harriet Harman. But she's also a stand-up comic, a very funny one, and it's a great combination, I think, that career path of being an advisor and a comedian, as she's said many times herself. And she's a commentator. She's out and about all the time, really powerfully commenting on the political issues of the day, and she writes a regular column in the Evening Standard. And somehow she still finds time to be a Fawcett trustee. So we're absolutely thrilled to say that Aisha's going to chair and interview Amber now, and I'm going to hand over to Aisha. Welcome, Aisha.